Hello and welcome to another episode of Fintech Focus TV with me, Toby. And today I am absolutely delighted to be speaking to Helen Bevis over at Speakerbus. Helen, how are you?
Hi, Toby. Very nice to see you too. Happy mornings.
Likewise, lovely to see you. Listen, we've been chatting a little bit about your new role. Now the CRO over at Speakerbus. Actually not so new now, is it? It's been, about 9 months or so?
Yeah, so I joined the company back in February of this year. So it feels like pretty much a lifetime already, but I've been doing so much and being so busy with the company that it's 9 months has flown by.
I just keep seeing good results and good information coming through on social media. So I really wanted to get you on the show and talk a little bit more about it as well, because it's a fascinating business, right? So we'll get into loads of different things, from your journey through to CRO, through to the company itself, and the difference from being in a sort of very startup environment you were before to a more traditional environment now. We'll be talking a little bit about where the company's heading, talk a little bit about the culture and the business, and then loads of different things in between. But before we get into all of that, Helen, we've worked together, I think, now for best part of 10 odd years, and I've seen you sort of go through some outstanding roles. This one's really, really exciting. Tell us a little bit about your background and a little bit about what you're doing at Speakerbus and what Speakerbus is doing, if you can.
Sure. So my background, I think when we first sort of crossed paths was when I was in the investment banking industry. So going right back to Goldman Sachs, Credit Suisse, my history working on the trading floor in electronic trading. That kind of led me to bring much more of a technology element to my career. So working a lot with the technology providers, such as Ulink and Nice Actimize when I was working with them on the capital market side. That gave me a very good flavour for the compliance and regulatory space that we were working in as part of that technology. So I got much more involved with a couple of startups. So there was Redkite, which got acquired by Nice Actimize, and also most recently SteelEye. So yeah, that's kind of my journey up to where I am now, which is obviously taking on a brand new challenge with Speakerbus.
Excellent. And Speakerbus is a company that's been around for a long time, and it's done some incredible stuff. Tell us a little bit about what's happening at the moment and what the company does.
Yeah, so Speakerbus is a very traditional company. We've been around for about 35 years. We put the inception into putting the actual turrets, intercoms, all of the infrastructure around audio communications when it comes to actually the transactional affairs of institutional banking. Where they have evolved and developed is very much working with the trends around how the trading voice component has been adapted through those years. So that's different technologies, but also different components and functionalities around how those products actually work. You will have recognized over the last 18 months, through the pandemic, that an awful lot of technology has moved into a cloud-based environment, because people need to be able to work remotely. They need to be working away from homes. And I cannot remember the last time before the pandemic when trading floors would actively encourage their traders to go and work in a different environment other than inside their office space, for many reasons, let alone just under getting the right technology to be able to do their jobs efficiently, but also in terms of the security element as well, being able to monitor and control the environments that those employees are sitting in. So where Speakerbus is starting now to evolve is really understanding the concept of the hybrid working element. So taking the cloud infrastructure into play, but also looking at how our individuals and our clients are utilizing the products themselves. So looking more at the functionality, how that data then takes its journey from the actual infrastructure through to things like additional services like compliance, and how that then interoperates with other trading floor applications, such as Symphony, which is a unified communication tool that a lot of the trading floors are using now as a conduit to also play a big part in the transactional element of trading. Speakerbus is evolving all the time, and we've, I guess, historically managed to survive a lot of the financial evolution that has taken place over technology, but also in the marketplace. And we're still here, we're still very much alive, a very small company compared to our competitors, but also incredibly agile, be able to turn around what our clients are asking for at a moment's notice.
Yeah, I think that's a real key aspect, isn't it? Because this has been a fascinating space for me over the last, and I've spoken to a number of different companies in it, albeit in quite a tight sort of world. But if you look at where opportunity and growth has been over the last year, this sort of the hybrid manner and what it can do to that sort of world has necessitated an incredible amount of agility very quickly for businesses like Speakerbus, to adapt to the changing demand of the consumer, to the customer. Your customers must have had a significant shift in what's important to them and how they trade, how they do business, and I think one of the sort of keys to companies who've done really well is listening to those customers and providing solutions to it. How's the business, the company adapted to that shift in demand, and how was that sort of undertaken as a project?
Yeah, so we were very quick to listen to our clients and understand what they needed during that pandemic time. Of course, a lot of the actual infrastructure needed to be made sure that it was able still to be compliant. And a lot of that takes place with making sure that they've got the right functionality to be able to still do the real-time communications from a high-speed perspective. So all of that was taken into consideration. But we were able to produce our ARIA soft turret out to our clients so that they're able to continue on to trade exactly as they were in the office, but having all the abilities and the tools to do that from a remote location. And this is going to be the trend going forward, is being able to have that hybrid approach that, as we see at the moment, many clients are starting to come back into the office. But I think for a lot of the larger organizations, the transformation back into an office full time won't happen. It won't happen for a good time yet. And in order to facilitate that, there still needs to be the right element of technology, but also ensuring that the compliance and regulatory elements are still being met. And that's where we're very much focused in the space of being able to provide that with our soft turret, but also in terms of the additional services that Speakerbus offers. So we're able to bring together the cloud element of being agile enough to put all the infrastructure into an environment where it can be serviced and maintained remotely, but also from a compliance angle, we're adapting to a number of different services that allows us to send that data directly into compliance solutions.
I think what I know of the business is a lot of businesses being won and people moving over to Speakerbus from, I guess, challenges in the space and such like. And it's been a lot of the growth recently has been people moving over to it. Has it been the compliance aspects, the angle that's driven that? What's been the sort of key to the wins that you've had?
Yeah, there definitely are a couple of angles there. One is obviously being able to ensure that the functionality that the traders had in their office environments is replicated to a high degree back into a remote location. They need to be able to have that functionality. It's not just a simple case of being able to switch on a Teams or a Zoom, because these are very single-channeled communication tools, as opposed to a lot of the complex functionality that exists within a turret and how they then interoperate with a lot of their clients. All of that needs to still be taken into consideration, especially when you're recording and being able to capture all of that audio content, not only from a quality perspective, but also in terms of being able to utilize that information and attach it to the trading side so that you can bring together that trade reconstruction element that you need from a regulatory perspective. So it still needs a total focus on the outputs of the audio that you are generating through the functionality that you're placing in front of the traders themselves.
Fantastic. I think it's just so interesting, isn't it? I could go into this for ages, but we get too technical on it, and there's so much I want to cover with you as well. Sorry, carry on.
I was going to say another really important factor is that, as we've just kind of mentioned, the Teams and Zoom element, these are also tools that have accelerated their use during the pandemic. And that's not to say that the trading side of the firms are not utilizing these tools as well. They are, and they have to have this ability to be able to interact with these types of communication tools as well as their trading infrastructure, the turrets. from their audio equipment. And this is, of course, something that all of the providers, including Speakerbus, have started to really accelerate their adaptation of how they interact with a lot of these capabilities. So the interaction of Teams, the interaction of Symphony, the interaction of OpenFin, for example, how they all connect together is extremely important, and of how the evolution of the trading floor technology is starting to now adapt through to the actual turrets and the audio components themselves.
I think it's been a big theme, I think, of the last 6 to 12 months of doing this show, where we've been speaking about so much more collaboration across the industry, and that sort of interoperability has been, one of the sort of kernels, I think, of positive change of how companies have worked together to provide the suite for the customer, and it's so customer driven now. And I think if you look at the digital world, and how we expect so much from just in terms of your phone and picking that up, and how everything should interact seamlessly together. I think it just opens up so many fascinating angles to how companies can really move further forward, and large incumbents and legacy systems and enterprise systems can be disrupted from something which is far more tailored to the individual who's sat there trying to get the best out of their performance and move themselves up into what works for them specifically, as opposed to what works for the enterprise and legacy incumbent that suits them and their needs, and saying this is what you have to have if you want to do this. And it makes a really, really exciting world. And we've seen, coming back to that, and we've seen a whole host of startups sort of move very quickly. You've had, as you said at the very outset, a sort of a career that's moved from startups through to major institutions, through to more traditional companies that you're in again at the moment. Tell us a little bit about that sort of journey for you and the differences you're finding at the moment. As you said, February is when you started up. You're acclimatizing and finding your feet over the course of this year. Talk to us about the difference from scale up and start up through to where you are in a 35-year-old company, and all the benefits in between.
Yeah, so first and foremost, I joined Speakerbus during the pandemic. So I was actually onboarded virtually, which is an interesting concept in itself. I think after all the 25 years or so that I've been in this industry, it's the first time that I've ever been interviewed and onboarded into a company without actually meeting any of them. So in that piece alone, it's a very new environment still that we are going through during this time. So I can really empathize with a lot of new employees coming into the company about how essential it is that you get face-to-face time with individuals to understand and build relationships. It's really key, especially when you're going into a new organization, to really understand how the company works, the underlying characters and personalities which you'll be working with, and how they all gel together. And being out on a Teams call every day for the first 3 months or so was quite, I would say, isolating, but I was made absolutely welcome by Speakerbus employees. They all made sure that I was being kept up to date. They were all making sure that I had the right information, that I knew where to go. I had a training plan. I had always people dropping in to make sure that I had everything that I needed to continue to learn more about Speakerbus. And that was one of the great things I found. We, as a company, have a lot of staff who have been with the company over a number of years. The churn rate at Speakerbus is extremely low, and we have a number of people who have been there for 20 years plus. Now, that's brilliant because they know everything about the company, they know everything that everybody does within the company, and they can really provide you with a lot of the history as well as training and getting you up to speed. They want to spend time with you. They want to make sure that you've got all the information that you need as an employee to be successful and comfortable within the organization. So I really found that a huge benefit.
Yeah, it's an amazing thing, isn't it? I mean, I've been in the recruitment industry for 21 years, and if you'd asked me in last March about what would happen if your clients and candidates weren't in the office for the best part of 18 months, 2 years, I'd have been seriously concerned about how it would even be possible to do that sort of thing, and the agility and adaptability of being able to interview and onboard remotely has been that's something I would never have even dreamed of, and companies have done it really well. That said, there are companies there who've done it particularly badly, and I'm really interested in this for you, because it is difficult to become a part of something culturally when, as you say, you haven't met. And I know we're moving into a more hybrid model. I know you're in the office now a little bit more and such like, as well as being having the best of both worlds. But tell me a little bit about that experience, because I think from speaking to you, certain things got done absolutely brilliant, and you've highlighted it there and intimated a lot of it. But if you would say, look, 2 or 3 things that were done particularly well, I'm interested in this because it will be one of the awards that we're doing in the next Financial Technologist about onboarding and how the best companies have onboarded talent and looked after it, which is a huge part of, I think, long-term engagement and success, about how people are treated and looked after and onboarded into a business, which gets so overlooked. It's like, here's your computer, here's your screen, get on with it. And it's amazing how often that's the case from it. But it sounds like you've had a really great experience with that. So that's a little bit more.
Yeah, I immediately things like I've seen lots of Instagram posts and LinkedIn posts about all the new startup boxes that people get when they join a company. Speakerbus is still very traditional, so it's not all about the bling and the flounce. It's very much a case of looking at the details and understanding and making sure that you are being onboarded as effectively as possible. And a lot of that is personal rather than things and assets. So yes, I did get a Speakerbus mug that was sent to my house to make sure that I felt part of the environment and part of the organization. But more than that, it was making sure people were always available. Yeah. Time is the most precious asset that anybody can offer you, and I think that's really hard to do when everybody is suffering or was suffering from Zoom and Teams burnout because they were constantly on video calls, and to get them to take time out to spend time with an individual, to take them through, make them sure that they had all the accessible things that they needed, as well as being able to just pick up a phone and say, I don't know about this, can you just explain something to me? Everybody had time. And to me, that was the most important thing. When I joined the company, they sent me a very big, comprehensive list of who everybody was, what their job roles were, and how I was going to be introduced to them over a period of time. And that was brilliant because it gave me time to understand these people, and they were all willing to give their time to me. So for me, Toby, it's not all about the stuff that people can give you. It's more about the quality of information and the time that they give you in order for you to be as successful and efficient as you can be. Me personally, I want to make sure that I'm doing the best possible job in as quick as time so that I can be valuable to the company. I get more of a buzz, more of a success feeling being able to do that than I would do if I was wearing a Speakerbus jumper.
I think it's a really interesting thing, isn't it? Because that's quite often those packs, I always see them as almost playing for the camera. It's like we're a wacky culture, let's put it on Instagram, etc., and show we're out, but it papers over the cracks of it. And I think back to environments that I've even worked in before, where it's sort of like they deliver a very champagne sort of lifestyle on camera, and behind it it's sort of more sort of apple ties that gets delivered. So I love the fact of actually looking at real things that make a difference, as opposed to just putting some glitz over the top of it and putting some sprinkles to make it real. And I think that's really important, because you kind of touched on it there, interacting with people and I know it's probably a little bit twee to talk about it sometimes, but family, I think, is a really important part of business, and making people feel part of that culture and part of that family within that. Tell me a little bit about how you'd describe the culture, and how I know there's 100 of you in the company. How does that interaction happen? I know it's it's not all in one location. I know you've got hybrids and stuff. Tell me a little bit about that culture, how you've been made to feel part of it, what it looks like, and why it's great.
Yeah, so from my journey into the company, I was immediately immersed into not just the senior management, but also a lot of the engineers, A lot of the other people within the organizations in our remote offices, such as Singapore and the US, I was able to get access to all of these people to really understand how the organization works. One of the things that we do really well, we have a newsletter that comes out. And I know these are simple things, but the newsletter is great because not only does it tell you about the wins and the achievements of the personal individuals, but also things that are just going on in the company that you may not get access to. So if there is a particular project that's going on within the organization, we can share some of the information internally to keep people advised about the types of things that are going on in the organization. Now, as I mentioned before, a lot of the people at Speakerbus have been there for quite some time. And what that means is that they've tried and shown, they've gone through different roles within the company. So the career progression that is available to a lot of the individuals and employees that come into the company is brilliant. You could come in as a graduate and, over a period of time, really be involved into a lot of different aspects within the company and find where your feet are, where you naturally shine. And these are always encouraged. And I think, again, that's a great concept to have, because a lot of the newer companies nowadays, they're more involved in taking people from outside the organization rather than encouraging to bring new staff at a lower level and really train them and involve them into the company so they stay a lot longer. There has to be a good mix of both. I think bringing new experiences in and bringing new skill sets in really sets the tone to show how the company can evolve more into understanding what's going on around them. But having the ability to do both is a really strong thing that we promote within the company. If I was to put an analogy around it, as a corporate organisation,
I love an analogy as well. I'm looking forward to this.
It's great. I was speaking to somebody the other day, and we were talking about it in terms of cars. Now, I would pitch Speakerbus as a Land Rover, because traditionally they've always been a functional company. They're an engineering company that has a purpose, and the product and the services that they provided 35 years ago are still very traditionally part of the ethics and the culture of the company. But as the brand like Land Rover has moved on, it's evolved, it's listened to its client base, it's started to bring in elements of those new pieces of desires and convenience that clients are now clamoring for. So whereas the car has started to evolve more into bringing technology in and designing how it can be more streamlined and more aesthetically pleasing, the same is happening with Speakerbus. We've got the same underlying ethics around why the company exists and what it provides, but we're also showing our users and our client base that we can evolve with the marketplace by adding new things like having the soft turret. We have a brilliant office, as you can see behind me is the great backdrop. We've got a beautiful city office with a huge, large outdoor terrace for entertaining and being able to just get outside in the city and enjoy the sunshine when it's out. It's very much a case of looking at how we interact with new technology. So the same thing with cars, you're bringing in Apple Play, you can use the Spotify, you've got the DAB radio. The same thing applies with us as an organisation. We started to bring in a lot of those different aspects that clients are now expecting to have as standard and as default. So that's where I see us as a company and as a culture. We're always evolving. We're always looking at what our clients want, and we're always making sure that the standard ethics of why we exist in the first place are still there.
I love that, and as I say, I love the analogy. That's a great one as well with it. It's you can visually see exactly where you're going with it as well. You touched on before that sort of blend of lifers, people who've been there for a long time, and then bringing in specialist skill sets within that too, which sort of made me just think to your journey. And it's been fascinating, the amount of different things you've been into and done over the time that we've known each other and various elements. To move to CRO. Perhaps isn't something which a couple of years ago that we'd have been talking about and mapping out for you. as soon as you said it, it sort of makes sense exactly as to the how, what, and where of what you're doing, what you can bring to it. Talk to me about that and how that came about and why it's an exciting challenge for you and what you bring to that particular position. And also, because I'm going to throw 16 different questions at you at the same time, tell me a little bit about the business and its attitude to mobility, because I think that's a really important part of it as well, about how people don't just look at people and say, right, this is the pigeonhole you're going to be in until you move on to the next place. And you can't have that if you have people who've been there for 20 years. Tell me a little bit about how the company looks after people's career and the mobility of their career. And also, as I say, that first part of the question will be all about you and your story to CRO as well.
Yeah, so I joined Speakerbus originally to focus on bringing and expanding out the compliance arm of the business, looking at how we can evolve more around the services of regulatory compliance on the audio space. That's something that I've been quite passionate about over the last 6-7 years when I've been working in the regulatory compliance space for nice actomycin steel. I've been very much focused on that area. So bringing that element to almost the source of the river, which is the initial capture of that audio content, was really something quite exciting for me to pick up and bring as a service, and look at how we can really advance the use of the underlying architecture and infrastructure to build better quality results through to the compliance side. Whilst doing that, a lot of what I was discovering was that we could do so much better within the organization around how we strategize on a lot of the services and the skills that we have within the corporate organization. So mapping that out and understanding a lot about how all of those elements fit together, I kind of put myself into a situation where I was considered by the senior management and our CEO as somebody who could lead that from a revenue standpoint. So hence the reason why I then took on the role of CRO for Speakerbus. For me, it's a great honor, because somebody's put a lot of trust in me, that a lot of my experience and skills that I've gained from many of the deployments that I've had in my past 25 years can really start to add value. This is not just about sales. This is not about making sure that we've got the right elements around our sales solution team. It's about how all of that fits together within the organization, how we go about delivering those particular services and products, how we go about ensuring that we've got client retention, what we do in terms of marketing, how that all then interacts back through our customer success channels, as well as being able to identify new revenue streams within the company and the organization itself. I'm really quite humbled that I can take on this opportunity, and I really want to prove to Speakerbus that they've made the right decision. So for me, I'm all hands on deck at the moment. I'm really excited about it. The team are really excited about it, about what we are hopefully going to achieve over the next 5 to 10 years as Speakerbus, and really bring in other elements of how we can evolve as a company. So you'll start to see a lot more new things coming out of Speakerbus, and hopefully a lot of the messaging as well will be very exciting.
One of my favourite things in this job is speaking to people who love what they do, and it's been something that's a passion of mine for ages, and seeing people who are charged by the sort of potential and the excitement about the projects and where they're going. And I think it's fascinating that, you know, CROs come in many shapes and sizes and from a whole plethora of backgrounds. But there's a big traditional sort of route that people go through, from a very sort of authentic sort of sales. And I think you touched on it, where you talked about the sort of solution selling and actually having that credibility in it, which you've got so much, that I think makes it in your career, makes it so credible, which is where I think people have really moved to over the last 10 years. It was a very, very different salesperson I think you saw 10-15 years ago in financial technology. Completely different set of skills, completely different sort of outfit in terms of how people went and what they, the way they won business. And I think this to me is a really forward-thinking appointment that makes a really exciting future for you.
If you think about how sales teams have had to evolve over the pandemic as well. A lot of our team have been very traditional, face to face, understanding what our clients want and being able to facilitate that. That opportunity doesn't exist, not currently in a fluid way. So we need to know how to interact with our clients, how to understand and read what they are after without actually seeing them face to face. So a lot of those skills have need to be adapted and fine-tuned. So this is very much a focus for me and my team to make sure that they have the right tools, the right skills to be able to focus and be successful in their jobs. And part of that is to understand more about digital selling. So this is a key component about what I'll be doing in the CRO role.
Yeah, and I know there's some exciting stuff you're talking about there about restocking the toolbox, isn't it, for how people do things and where it can open. And I think it's been amazing. We've done webinars where we've had numerous different marketers and seen the dramatic increase of significance, I think, of marketeers and how close that works with sales teams. I think it's a really, really exciting time to see what's happening there. I spoke on the second part of that question when I was throwing 1,500 at you at the same time about mobility within the business. And you're a classic example of that opportunism within it. You see a business that's been around for 35 years and you think it might be a little bit more traditional sometimes within that. But I think the business, from what you've told me and you as a case in point, there's a lot of versatility around people's careers within the business as well, right? Do you want to talk about that a bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So mobility within the company has always been part of the culture within Speakerbus, and it's still something that we're very much proud of, that we're able to offer these different types of elements within the company. So where you are able to join a company doing one role, within 5 years' time, you might be doing something completely different. And that is very much up to the individual and to the opportunities that are open to them. I think one of the key things that working with Speakerbus offers is that because we're always evolving, because we've got opportunities where we are looking at how we develop as a company, develop our services and develop our underlying technology, there are always open opportunities in which you can show your specific skill sets. We've had individuals come in, do a specific job, and in the background, they could be learning a new coding skill or a new development technique. And what we've been encouraging is that they start to show those skills, even if it's not part of their day-to-day job, with lunch and learn type sessions internally. So they can come to the table, they can show what they've been doing, they can demonstrate or even teach other individuals within our company about their passion, about what they are able to achieve. And this has really demonstrated that we've got some hidden talents within the company that we didn't even know existed. And we're really starting to nurture those and understand how we can utilize them more within our company and organization. And this just proves that we're not just there to show somebody to do one job and expect them to do it for day on years and years. If they've got the passion and they've got the drive, they can do anything they want. As long as the opportunity is there and as long as Speakerbus is still operating as a company, which, we're kind of hereditary proved that we can be, absolutely, these opportunities exist. And don't forget, we're a global company. So this is not just something that can happen in isolation in the UK. There are opportunities to move to the US, to Singapore, to Hong Kong. We've got loads of different offices around the globe where we've got individuals who will work with us.
The scale of opportunities is incredible, and I love seeing, as I say, people talking passionately about what they want to do. I could talk about this for ages, and I realise just how long we've been ticking through this. So I'm gonna wind things up with a final question for you, which is just about, with all of these sort of things happening, with you now driving this agenda, with the excitement about what can happen with it. Where's Speakerbus heading? What we've got coming our way?
Yes, so expect a lot from Speakerbus in the coming months. I plan to put a whole new marketing campaign in place. Speakerbus as a company is evolving very quickly. We've got 3 key pillars that we are really cementing within the company, and these are our products in terms of Chorus, which is very much looking at how all of our products fit together. And from the infrastructure and engineering side, we've got Cadence, which is the cloud and how we operate a as a SaaS service. And then we've got Sonance, which is very much that compliance and services element of how we manage and interact with the data itself into its regulatory space. Lots going on with us at the moment. I'm really excited about how this is all going to be deployed and the messaging that's starting to come out. So yeah, exciting times for us.
Definitely sounds it. Listen, I've got no doubt whatsoever, having known you for a long time, about how successful this is going to be, and they've got an incredible CRO on their hands, and I've got a real excitement to see the sort of rise of the of the business. It is it's always been a great company. I've got a feeling it's going to get even greater. It's been brilliant having you on the show. For people who've watched this and want to get in touch with you, what's the best way of doing that?
They can go to the website, say speakerbus.com, or they can contact me on LinkedIn.
Perfect. Helen, always a pleasure. Thanks so much for joining us and giving us all the lowdown on Speakerbus. We wish you the very, very best of luck. And thanks to all of you for joining in. We'll see you soon on another episode of Fintech Focus TV. Thanks a lot. Cheers.